See?
I thought he said C as in
in C. C.
Yeah,
C.
C? No.
C.
Okay. All right. So I'm here. We're live. We're all here. And that's what's important because we weren't quite sure about John down there for a minute. And there might be some cool possession-like stuff happening with your feed, which would be amazing if we could get some more of that. In fact, I kind of want it back now. Those of you who weren't here for our pre-show, I have no idea what we're talking about. But anyway, welcome to Scare-a-Thon 2021, episode 2, here on October 8th, 2021. We are here to help out our good friend Aaron Christensen of Horror 101 with Dr. AC in his 11th year running Scare-a-Thon, where every October he watches as many horror movies and fright flicks as he can during the month of October, during scary season, and he raises money for a great cause. Now, as for those who joined last week, you know that we are raising money for the Albany Park Theater project, which let me get the old banner up here. I should have had this ready. Darn it. I'll get professional one of these days. But yeah, Aaron, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the Albany Park Theater project is, a little refresher, and then I'll also introduce our other guest here, John Kitley. Well, I kind of actually am already. So John Kitley of Kitley's Krypt back again for the old Accademia Giallo. But before we get into what we're talking about tonight, let's talk about why we're talking about what we're talking about. AC, take it away.
All right. What an introduction that was. The Albany Park Theater Project is a teen ensemble in Chicago's, where are we? Kind of like Northwest Side. And they create all of their own work. And most of their ensemble are comprised of either lower income and or first generation families. And so they are bringing a lot of cultural reference and telling stories that might not be heard. Certainly stories that need amplification. And so that's kind of what we're doing here is we're creating the opportunity for them to create more of their work and expand and continue to reach out. They don't just do performances, however. Albany Park Theater Project also helps their ensemble members with college prep. They do field trips to places like New York, and just kind of expanding their horizon, expanding their worldview as they expand our worldview as audiences. It's a really great organization, and I hope you check out the website, which should be in the comments, link, etc. description below.
There's a link to the webpage in the description below, along with the link to the donation page if you want to jump right in and give. But yeah, thank you for that beautiful little summation. Just we'll can that and play it next week because I think that was just about perfect.
Thanks.
So John Kitley of Kitley's Krypt, I think I want to change things up just a little bit as far as the format, because Aaron is watching scary movies. He's watched a bunch this week, I'm sure, and he's blogging about them at Horror 101 with drac.blogspot.com, I think. Is that the correct URL?
You can also just Google Horror 101 with Dr. AC and you will find me.
Okay, fair enough. John, I think your place really is possessed.
Yeah. I don't know. I try to get more people out of here, and I end up getting more in. Just can't see those guys.
Well, as long as they're watching our live stream, that's fine. But all right, so tell me, let's start off. What have you watched any scary movies this week?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Alone in the Dark, Jess Franco's Vampiros Lesbos. The hell did I watch? I don't know. They all kind of run together. But I've watched a few. Dead and Buried. I just rewatched that again. The Gary Sherman one, which I just love that movie.
Is Alone in the Dark the one that Jack Palance, Martin Landau?
Yeah.
I bet they would like being mashed up with Vampiros Lesbos.
Who would?
They would enjoy that.
No, Alone in the Dark I haven't seen in probably 2 decades. And Martin Landau is just a hoot in there. He is creepy as hell. But yeah, this is I'm not getting as much movies as I would like to get, but I'm working on it.
So what prompted you to watch Alone in the Dark?
I just got the new Blu-ray.
Shot
okay.
Factory just put it out.
Yeah,
it's
and
a
I
really
had and
nice release.
I hadn't seen it in a very long time, so I figured, what the hell, I'll bust that out, and had either no idea or had totally forgotten that the large man that's in there, one of the killers, a psychopath, and I don't remember his name, but he's the same guy that was in The Warriors and Stir Crazy. Huge guy who is also an opera singer, which is
Whoa.
Hilarious.
And kind of appropriate for tonight's discussion, I think.
Exactly. See, that's why I brought it up, man.
Oh, of course, synergy.
Trying to make a segue there.
Well, I appreciate your commitment to Sparkle Motion. Aaron, that's a Donnie Darko reference for anyone who didn't get it. That landed about as well as I'd hoped. AC, what have you watched this week?
I mean, honestly, Ian, your references come so fast and furious that it's hard to keep up. We're mostly just trying to stay in our seats. What have I watched this week? So last week, actually, I think I just started with the French film Hostel. And
Right.
for those of you who don't know, kind of as a mirror of the cultural, the widespread cultural net that APTP represents, I am watching 31 films from 31 different countries this year. And so I will just down the list here. Number 2 was Hagazusa from Austria. The Pond from Serbia. Psycho Gorman from Canada.
Still have to watch that. I've heard great things.
It's fun. Tag Along 2 from Taiwan.
Is that the sequel to the Killer Girl Scout cookie movie? Sorry.
Wow.
Anyway, go ahead.
I was like, I actually
That's
gave some
close.
thought to that, and then I went, no, it's not. Santo y Blue Demon contra los Monstruos from Mexico. And then Juan of the Dead from Cuba. And tonight's feature, The Killer Reserved 9 Seats from Italia.
Wow, so this is your Italian film.
This is my Italian film.
Okay. Well, speaking of which, we have Big Swifty 500
Woohoo!
in the house, in the comments. I'm going to show this. I don't quite know what this means. It's a double O or double zero.
I
We're
think
not
it's
talking about
eyes.
James Bond.
I'm really excited.
Or just like the pupils rolled all the way back in the head from my terrible Girl Scout cookie joke. But welcome, Big Swifty. In fact, I'm glad you're here because as I recall, I was scrolling through the comments when putting the series together for this month. And I saw an Accademia Giallo request on behalf of yourself to talk about The Killer Reserved 9 Seats. So here we are. See, one voice can make a difference. Mm-hmm. So, Big Swifty, I hope you enjoy our roundtable review of The Killer Reserved 9 Seats, which we are going to step into right now. Now, I can't guarantee that all of our opinions will be, overly gushing or even kind, but we'll do our best. And I think you might have posted these 4 thumbs up before I said that last bit, but I'll take it. Let's launch right into it. So this is Gieusseppe Bennati. As with all of these, I have to give my best/worst Italian impression of the voice. So 1974. Let's start off with, have you guys ever seen another Giallo film by Gieusseppe Bennati, and where might he fit into the Giallo scheme of things?
I believe this is the only one he made.
Yeah, it was one of his last films.
Yeah.
I was not familiar with Mr. Bennati, and nor was I familiar with this film. So thumbs up to Big Swifty for putting the spotlight on it. In doing a little research, I found that it actually has been one of the more obscure Giallo to be released. It's only been released in kind of not great pan and scan VHS, and only recently did it get a legitimate and cleaned up release, which was the one that I watched. And man, what a fantastic looking movie.
Did you watch it on physical media, or did you rent it off Amazon, or what'd you do?
I got it on Amazon.
Okay.
It was streaming for 99 cents, folks.
Yes, it was.
So you can check it out, unless you're Ian Simmons, in which case you have a story.
I do. Before we get to that, though, I want to complete the context circle. So, AC, this was the first watch for you then?
Correct.
for the show. Okay, so Kitley, had you seen this before?
If I did, I'd have no recollection of it.
Okay,
So I also watched it on Amazon for 99 cents, which I don't know if you guys had the issue, but my subtitles were not up to par because sometimes they disappeared and sometimes you just got a question mark.
That's right.
Like
yeah,
the transcribers went,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. So that made the thriller part even more interesting.
Well, that actually dovetails quite nicely into my story. I'm not exactly ashamed to admit it, but I found this movie on YouTube. Now, I'm not a fan of like just when I go to YouTube and I look, because I was looking up the trailer to put together the whole production for this show, and I noticed, oh, someone has the entire film posted up online, but it looked like a legit company. Like they had like a logo and everything in the bottom corner of the movie while it was going on. It looked like a professional page. So I'm like, well, whatever. Maybe they're just hosting it for some reason. I don't know if it's in the public domain or whatever. So I watched it, or I started watching it. I got like 5 minutes in. It had English dubbing. I was like, okay, I'm into it. But then all of a sudden, the English dubbing stopped, and they just burst into Italian for like a scene would start off with, say, 3 characters. It was when there's some conglomeration of this multiple cast were getting together in the theater and just kind of like talking in little cliques. They would start off in English and then transition to Italian, and it would just like go on for minutes. And so then I scrubbed through to further along in the movie. I'm like, okay, they're speaking English again. Maybe it's just one of those things you see those sometimes in contemporary like blockbusters where they'll just start speaking another language, but they won't post the subtitles because they're doing something artsy and cool. But no, it happened again like 15 minutes later. I'm like, this is just a busted dub somehow. So I went to Amazon. Hey, look, you can rent it on Amazon and it's less than $1. What could go wrong? I start playing it. They're speaking entirely in Italian. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to the alternate language track because I was just watching it in English like a minute ago. Italian is the only language available on the Amazon release. Yep. So I went to the subtitles and I start reading the subtitles. I'm like, okay, this is cool. There's actually a slightly different translation than what the English dubbing was. So I was like, oh, this is interesting stuff, some of the differences. But then all of a sudden, yes, the Italian would be going on, but the English would stop. And all of a sudden there's parentheses question mark in the middle when someone's talking. I'm like, I don't know Italian really well, but I know enough to understand that the words that were being said on screen were not unintelligible. It's not like I'm just sitting here talking about and then it starts up again. It's the actual language. Okay.
Well, I liked it.
Indeed. Ciao bella.
I liked it in the fact that it even dropped out and had a question mark during the Shakespeare recitation. I was like, I'm pretty sure you could find the rest of Romeo and Juliet.
I think that was a statement on the part of the filmmakers, which is nobody really understands Shakespeare. No, but then there'd be just, long stretches where there would be no subtitles and it's in Italian. And let's get this out of the way. I want to keep the Albany Park Theater Project banner down below going through the entire show to encourage people to donate and check them out. But we are going to just talk about spoilers. So that should be, imagine that ticker down below as a spoiler warning. At the very end, when the ghastly presence is explaining what is going on, like kind of revealing the plot, I got about 2 sentences out of it. And then the next 3 minutes where he's monologuing is all in Italian.
Really?
I did. You didn't get that part? My God, are we having different subtitles on?
I mean, maybe. I feel like, maybe I just like I figured like, because I don't have this sense of I didn't know what happened.
I picked it up, but I got the feeling like I understood what happened, but I didn't quite understand why. I'm like, how is this all going on? So let's just rewind the tape a bit and talk about what this movie is about. It's essentially, I feel like Dario Argento sort of remade this movie with opera 13 years later. And I also feel like the people who made Slaughter High in the 80s may have watched this movie and thought, I can do better, complete with the idea of having middle-aged people as the star of your, pseudo slasher movie, except in Slaughter High, they were actually supposed to be, teenagers in the flashbacks. And then like 5 years later, they were like in their early 20s, except they're all like, 43 years old. But yeah, so it's a group of people getting together at this fabulously wealthy old man Patrick's theater. It's something that he's owned, but it's kind of been dormant for several years. And they've all gathered there for some reason. And it turns out that once they get settled in, nobody knows quite why they're there. It's like, I thought you set this up. I thought you set this up. Hey, who's that guy over there? That weird guru looking guy. I thought he was your friend. No, I thought it was, his acquaintance. He told us to come here. So no sooner that they figure out that they're all there under mysterious circumstances, than weird things start to happen in terms of murder. And attempted murder. And it's a very strange film, because even though these folks are all like, I'd say like mid to upper 20s to like up into probably their 50s, there are a lot of horny people. Like every chance they get, they break off into couples. Sometimes, man, woman, sometimes woman, off to like secret corners to experiment. And there's all sorts of like swapping and interchange going on amidst this bizarre Italian soap opera, amidst murders. A very strange Giallo film. Now, I just want to get a high level opinion from everybody. What did you make of The Killer Reserved 9 Seats?
I don't know if I would really call it a Giallo, because
there were black gloves and murder. And Italian,
okay,
but no JB Scotch.
I was just going to say no JB, but it bordered, because there is a supernatural element to it. Typically, Giallos do not have that,
right?
So that kind of puts it in a different subcategory, maybe. I don't know if it was because of the lack of subtitles. I do know in some cases there might be a printout there that is subtitled by a company, and then they find uncut footage and they do a composite print. And that's how sometimes you get
the gaps
in there where there's either no dialogue, no translated dialogue, or no subtitles. I don't know if that would be in this case because of the question mark.
Right.
That's just like someone going, I have no clue, which is even worse, because at least that means that somebody is trying to translate it and just gives up.
Right.
But back to the movie, honestly, I wouldn't count this as one of my favorites. It's beautifully shot. The theater itself is just amazing. It's a great place for something like this, but you really have no freaking clue of what's going on. And then when you find out at the end, you're going, oh, okay. It doesn't seem to have a good Giallo has that reveal of who the killer is or something. And sometimes it's like, there's no freaking way it's that guy, or it has nothing to do with the rest of the movie, but there's some sort of a twist. This twist is like, oh, okay. Doesn't really fall into play with what we all thought it was. But yeah, I was not that impressed with this one.
Fair enough. How about AC?
I liked it.
John,
it's a good.
It's good. No, I actually, yes, because I also questioned whether it got to be qualified as a true Giallo because of the supernatural element. But I also was like, well, whether or not this is going to be explained, we got to wait and see. And it is explained. And I like the twist within the twist. And then also, there's also a supernatural element. So it's kind of like, okay, it feels like the murders themselves are all explained in a real world, rational way. It's just there's also a supernatural curse that is hung over the family. So I didn't feel like that disqualified it. And if anything, it was like, okay, I haven't seen this before. And that was interesting, just to have something new, a new spice thrown in. But to go along with your point, John, I think it's really well shot. I'd say, I think like half of the murders are imaginative, and the other half are pretty mundane. And I like the fact that it does seem like it's playing with the rules of the giallo, in that we see black gloves, but they're not being necessarily put to use the same way. And we have a masked killer, but it's not the mask that we've come to expect. But yeah, I enjoy it. For the body count movie that it is. I dug it. I think it's more in keeping with, what was to become the slashers of the 80s, more so than other giallo. I feel like this is a genuine slasher / body count movie. And again, we had some good creative kills, and then some that were pretty so-so.
There is a very giallo-esque, sexually brutal murder.
Oh yeah.
That is now that is right out of a giallo.
Yep.
That is exactly out of there. Even though you don't see anything, it's a bit intense.
I want to talk to you guys about that. But first, let's not.
And then I'd like to talk to my therapist.
Yeah.
Seriously. No, I want to kind of give my overall thoughts, and then we'll talk about that and many other things. But this is definitely a film that by the time it was over, I thought, before I really understand how I feel, I need to see this again. Part of it was the barrier to entry of kind of flip-flopping around between like dubs and subtitles and missing text and all this other stuff, because I started writing diagrams in my notebook. A lot of times I keep notebooks now because I watch so many movies and my life is so crazy that I have to jot like points down so I don't forget what I actually watched and don't confuse it with other movies. But in this case, I was writing like a family tree of all the intertwining relationships going on, because I said this is an Italian soap opera. That's not a lie. There's like all this, you could take the murder element out of it and it becomes like Succession or Billions, or one of those shows where it's like people climbing over each other to get to the top of this family fortune. And there's, love and affairs and intrigue. But at the end of it, I was like, this is a cool idea. And I understand what you're saying, John, but I feel like it is enough of it is a 99.9% giallo film. But then that last 0.1% or whatever, I can't do math because I'm tired. That twist, if you had taken that component out of it, then I think it would have been, pretty straightforward giallo. It is that supernatural element that I agree is not usually part of this. Sometimes there'll be a tease. People think, "Oh my God, what's going on?" It must, it can't be, one person doing this. But that didn't bother me so much. Again, I want to see this again. So I can evaluate it, maybe ease on in now that I'm familiar with how the character relationships are playing out. Maybe I can pick up on some more of the nuances and some of the intrigue with how they're screwing each other over. It looks great. I think it's a little bit too long. I mean, it's like an hour and 40 minutes. I feel like you could have trimmed like 10 minutes out of this thing, because there are whole scenes where, I'm not familiar with Mr. Bennati's work, as I think most of us have already kind of copped to. So I don't know if horror was really his genre, or if this was his first stab at it. But there seemed to be a lot of, let's film this really cool, spooky looking theater, but we're going to let the score, overwrought as it is in a lot of places, do the heavy lifting of making this scary, because there's a lot of music going on. And I'm just looking at a hallway, like in the daylight, like what's, I'm not tremoring in my boots. But I do want to talk about that graphic. It's not graphic in that they show, I'll just use the word penetration of the blade, but there is a scene, and I think this is one of the most traumatic murders I've ever seen in any film. And it's one of the least gory that I've ever seen. And it involves one of the fakest rubber hands I've ever seen. And yet I couldn't believe what I was watching. There is a lady named, I think was it Rebecca? Was that her?
Which one do we have there? Vivian. Vivian. Rebecca. Yes, Rebecca is the sister.
Yeah. Oh, she's a sister?
Again, she's a sister. I can do a quick scorecard if you want.
I know Patrick's the millionaire.
Patrick is the billionaire. Vivian is his ex-wife. Yes. His daughter is Lynn, the redhead.
Yeah, his daughter. That was another question that kept coming up.
His sister is Rebecca, and her lesbian lover Doris is the short, crop blonde. Then we have the artist Russell. We have Vivian's new husband Albert, and we have Lynn's boyfriend Duncan, and then we have the mysterious stranger.
So I didn't pick up on the fact that Rebecca and Patrick were siblings. I thought they were just like friends. They did make a remark that they're all kind of related somehow, either by blood or by marriage at the beginning, or formally marriage, but it's still, I couldn't kind of keep up with these relationships. Again, subtitle inconsistency.
Yes, sure.
But Rebecca, who is, as you mentioned, a lesbian, she gets attacked by the killer. And what we come to find out about the killer, again, spoilers, folks. If you haven't watched this movie, please turn back now and return to this video when you see it. The fact that Patrick, the patriarch of this family, the rich guy, is the one doing the killing because he's possessed by the ancient spirit of someone else in his family, like the 1500s or something, who's been carrying out this ritualistic, let's throw a party every 100 years and kill everybody in the house, including whoever is his daughter in that line. He attacks Rebecca being his sister. So during the attack, and we don't know any of this until the very end, so you kind of have to go back and like recontextualize this in the movie and see how just disturbed it is. But he attacks her. There's a bit of a pursuit. He pins her down, rips off her clothes, so she's completely naked. This is more Dario Argento territory than anything. So she's completely exposed. And then he takes this knife and he proceeds to rape stab her with it. That's the only way I can put this. And you only see like her terrified reaction, and then you see him like constantly like pulling back and then thrusting forward. It's kind of like the scene from Seven involving the one guy who was representing lust, who was forced to go into I think there was like a peep show or something with the dildo that was made of a knife. And if we get pulled down on the live stream, don't be surprised. But imagine that scene, because in Seven it was the aftermath of that scene and that guy giving his testimony to the cops. In this movie you actually see a version of that played out where she is violently assaulted, and there's just something about it, being the 1970s and there being sort of a an illicit weird attitude towards the lesbian couple in this movie. Not just that they were like cheating on people, but also like what they were doing was so wrong. I felt like there was a weird judgment in the graphic violence. This is like the most brutal kill of the film, so I felt like there was some kind of a subtext going on there. I could be completely making stuff up out of my head, but what did you guys think of this? Did it upset you as much as me, or am I just so new to the genre that you're like, this is Pee-wee's Playhouse compared to what's coming?
Well, is it just my demented viewing that when she was being stabbed, it almost reveled her having sex? The moans that she was and the screams didn't seem to be as what you would think they would be, that she was being stabbed. Because a very somewhat similar scene to this in a more graphic and horrifying way is Leo Fulci's New York Ripper, when a stripper is killed with a broken Coke bottle.
That's right.
And that's more horrifying because it's, I don't want to say more realistic, but she screams. For some reason, watching this one, because you don't see the actual act, you see his arm, and then they show her upper half. I want to say it almost like she was not screaming in ecstasy, but it wasn't as painful sounding as you would have expected.
Well, what's the video nasty where the scene takes place on the train? Basically, last house on the left on the train. What's that one?
Oh, night murders.
Night train murders.
Night train murders.
Yeah, I feel like there's also a crotch stabbing in that as well. So yeah, the Italians, they had something going there.
I'm thinking of a film fest subject here we got going.
So to answer your question, Ian, I mean, yes, I think there is perhaps a stripe of misogyny. because we do see every single one of the women, with the exception of the Vivian, the elder, the former wife of Patrick. We see them all together. Everybody strips off, and then they are. And as you said, the two lesbians certainly get the most brutal on-screen murders. And I feel like the women definitely get the worst of it in this movie. They get either stabbed or slapped around and then stabbed.
Yeah. I was thinking about sort of like Scream when Doris gets killed by having the giant door kind of like rammed into her. She was trying to, get herself together. But yeah, I don't want to read too much into it. John, I can't speak to what you were experiencing watching the film because it's a subjective art form, but I did not detect anything except utter terror.
Well, when you go back and rewatch it, that'll be in your head, like it or not, and you're gonna go, he's a sick bastard, or I get it. I see what I understand it.
No, she likes it.
Yeah,
she likes it. I didn't get that.
That's
either.
What's gonna get the stream pulled down.
I will say that I agree with John in that I don't think her reaction fit the crime. I've seen other movies in which the delicate parts are being assaulted, and the response is far more realistic. This one just seemed a little kind of surprised.
Okay. Well, we have a comment from Big Swifty. Wow, I agree with everything you're saying so far. Awesome. Props to all three of you. This film is twisted. Yes, it is. And then he follows up with Solange.
Yes. Oh my.
Now, I know we talked about this, but again, my memory is terrible. What is he referring to in?
We have not watched it yet. What have they done to Solange?
Yes,
we have.
Wait, we did see that. Never mind.
Yes. See, it's not just my memory of this.
I was thinking, what have they done to your daughters? We haven't seen that one yet.
Worst crotch stab ever. Was there?
Is there a best crotch stab?
New York Ripper.
Yeah.
Let's put. I'll put up this poll on
best.
Survey Monkey.
Well, I'm just juxtaposing Big Swifty's comment. Like, if we have the worst, there must be a best.
The best, I think they would have to be this movie because you don't actually see anything. That's what makes it the best.
I was kind of pleased with that. I was pleased at the restraint because the director does clearly go there, but doesn't shove your face in it. You can see it if you want to see it.
Nice choice of words, by the way.
You're welcome.
I think that's kind of what surprised me or made me notice that because of the act is so horrifying.
Yeah.
You would have expected, and maybe she wasn't that good of an actress, but you would have expected more of a terrifying reaction.
Yes.
That would even accentuate the terror that we're not seeing, that you would feel it even more so, as in New York Ripper.
Maybe they didn't tell her what was happening to her.
Well, that could be too.
It does. That scene could have been shot completely separate because we don't see her head and the knife in the same frame. So
here's a terrible theory or speculation. What if there was a love scene between her and Doris, and Rebecca was in the throes of wild passion? At the end, they're like, "There's too much sex in this movie. We got to cut something out." Oh, hey, we'll take this reaction shot.
Hey, oh my God. Okay, we're definitely getting pulled down now.
Yes, it's the agony and the ecstasy. But no, I like. Speaking of Scream, there's something else that reminded me of that movie, and I don't know if Wes Craven or Kevin Williamson ever saw this movie because you mentioned it's kind of obscure, but something I haven't noticed a lot in these movies is the killers tend to be pretty with it, the stalkers who are going after people. In this, the killer, like the first time we see him, he's running away from the scene of a crime. We see him kind of like darting away. He's not just vanishing into the shadows. He's running scared. In one scene, he tries to strangle, it might have been Vivian, but he tries to get a rope around her neck, and she like brushes him off, and then someone else comes into the room and starts chasing him, and he kind of screws up. He's not slick.
Correct.
Now, there is sort of a not continuity problem, but thematic issue, I would say, because if this guy Patrick is being possessed by evil spirits or demons, you'd think they'd imbue him with some manner of suaveness. Not saying supernatural strength, but he shouldn't be this clumsy unless his body just doesn't know how to react. Like, oh, there's demons in me.
Wow. Is it? I mean, maybe it was the first. It was and clearly it was the demon's first day in that body. So
that could be.
You think maybe he's used to being in like younger, more well. This guy was pretty fit, and he oddly reminded me. Like, this is what I imagine. The actor who played Patrick. I imagine this is what Brad Pitt is going to look like when he's about 15 years older. Although I was disturbed to look at
Brad Pitt is already 50. He's 50 something.
Well, that's something that I want to mention here.
I like how you just take these codgers, these 50-year-olds. I mean, geez.
What? Say that again. I couldn't hear.
Exactly. Let me get my walker so I can come over there.
Well, I understand why you can't hear Kitley, because that's why you misinterpreted that scene. You couldn't tell the blood curdling screams from moans.
Unfortunately, I am not going to be around when Ian is watching this a second time going.
My.
No, I'll have my wife film me while I'm watching it, and I'll post it as a YouTube reaction.
There you go.
Because those are really popular for 1974 Gialli. But no, speaking of age, and I'm almost there with you. I'm getting up there.
Yeah,
I realized.
Right. So stop.
Look, it's one of those things where I'm perpetually 22. It shows in my jokes as well, that maturity. But at the end,
yes,
they get to the crypt. There's like this stone passageway with torches and everything lit, and it's Lynn and Albert, or no, Bernard, Duncan, yeah. Lynn and Duncan, they find the crypt where the tombs of all the past members of this family who've gone insane and killed themselves are buried, and there's fresh mausoleum style, headstones or whatever, with like gold lettering and numbering and stuff for where they will eventually go. They show Patrick's headstone. And yes, this may be ageism on my part, but looking at the actor playing Patrick, I was like, this guy is in his mid 50s.
Sure.
Or older. He's my age. I was looking at the dates. I'm like, no. I was having a Luke Skywalker moment on Bespin. That's not true. That's impossible.
He was having it's not the years, it's the mileage. People lived harder in the 60s and 70s.
And during this movie, I gotta say, I don't know what. I understand that they didn't know why they had been gathered in that theater, but they spent, especially when the murders start happening, these people spend way more time wandering around a giant spooky theater separately to go off and have sex with each other than I have seen in any slasher movie. Usually when bodies start dropping, everyone's like, okay, let's close ranks. And if anyone has to go out, we're going out in pairs. But this is like, here's a good place to get it on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a different time.
Yeah. Different place, different time.
Now I'm thinking about Streets of Fire, but that was another time, another place. But let's talk about. I've got my notes here. Yes, Lynn takes a lot of drugs, and then starts what I call prolonged boob dancing.
Ooh,
she puts on this like sheer white robe and is dancing in front of this full-length mirror, pretty much naked, and then her father comes in, and this is the second time in the movie where there's been some kind of a weird sexual tension between her and her old man, and I just wondered what the hell is going on here. Are they actually related? She's not. Tell me she's adopted.
Well, she's high, so like all the rules go out the window. She even says that,
but he's not.
Well,
and I don't. Sure. Maybe it's the demons inside of him.
He's stunned. He's confused. He's not been in this situation before. I like that you called it. What'd you call it? A boob dance? I called it the drug-induced shimmy shimmy.
You win. But yeah, it's just so odd. I think that's one of the reasons I'm not completely over the moon about this movie yet on first viewing. I do need to watch it again because it seems like there's like 1 to 2 to 17 extra ingredients in this regular straightforward story. It's like you've got the family drama, of like the ex-wife and then her husband, and he's got a vendetta against the new guy and all this other stuff. But then you've also got the supernatural reincarnation element, sort of. You've got the inheritance, attempted murder. You've got the lesbianism, which, you know, that's fine on its own, but like, then you've got the incest.
Yeah. I mean,
What?
you know, it's something for everybody, something for the whole family. I mean, I did read a little bit, and the director, who also co-wrote the screenplay with a couple other folks, he was directly inspired by Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians, which is, you know, the idea of a single space where you have these people all gathered together, unable to leave, and eventually people start getting bumped off. So I think, you know, probably he was adding a lot of spice to the stew, just to keep it fresh. I mean, this was also kind of late in the Giallo cycle, to be honest. I mean, Bird with the Crystal Plumage came out in 1970. Deep Red, which was the Giallo to end all Giallos, was 1975. So this is right at the tail end of the movement. So I'm guessing that Bennati was like, what else can we throw in there that will make our film different than all the others that have gone before?
That's an interesting point, and I think one of the things this movie does really have going for it is the location.
Mm-hmm.
But I almost feel like I'd like to see what an Argento could have done with that same set.
Well, if you are you thinking about Michele Soavi's Stage Fright? Yeah. Michele Soavi, who's one of Argento's proteges, made his first film is Stage Fright, which is a bunch of people getting killed off in a theater. So if you want to see a Dario Argento movie that isn't a Dario Argento movie, but pretty darn close, Stage Fright is your movie.
Well, we'll have to check that out. I think what I'm getting at is I want to see this particular theater complete with the weird catacombs and like the basement area with like old props and stuff being used really well. I don't know if it's just the lighting, because a lot of this, it feels like it takes place during the daylight. Even some of the basement scenes, you can see things, like shafts of light here and there. It's really odd. There's almost like a lack of atmosphere, almost a thinking that the environment is enough to sell the scares. We don't need to do anything to enhance it. And sometimes that's the case, but I don't think it's quite the case here. Let's see. We're missing some comments here. Well, thank you. We love this channel too, and we love that you're joining us here. Oh no. Here comes Bryan. Bryan, what are you doing? Hanging out in the comments.
You could just come in, you know.
Yes, we will let you in. You are our StreamYard vampire. Let's see. And Paolo Senatore, naked dancing equals highlight. Yep. Yes. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I have no problem with the prolonged boob dancing. It is simply what happens afterwards. I'm like, oh God. Now, the other interesting thing I think about this is Patrick is genuinely confused. We don't get a scene of a possessed version of himself, like having the struggle with the non-possessed version. Right. We see the murders happening, but we don't quite realize it's him. But when he does come to this revelation, he's like, oh my God, it's me. I've been doing this the whole time. Right. We don't see the demon version like, yes, you're fulfilling the prophecy, and now you must die too. To the point where you almost kind of wonder, is this all in his head? Is he punishing himself for something he could not possibly have done? Because they've found this book in the theater, and also there's like a weird poster on the wall, I think, that illustrates the manner in which everybody has been getting killed and probably will die, because this is being repeated throughout the centuries.
Yeah.
So I can understand him taking on this guilt and this psychosis of being locked in here while all these people ostensibly, hate each other. And it's like, maybe I am going crazy. Maybe I'm killing these people. But then after he's dead, then we find out, yeah, it really was ghosts. I do have to ask you a question, because I've been kind of knocking this film in terms of the filmmaking, except for one moment that truly blew my mind. And I don't know how they achieved it. Maybe you guys can tell me. there's a scene where I don't know if it was Vivian and Patrick, but Patrick was walking into a room or it was a stairwell or something, and he sees the guru, the mysterious guy with like the necklace, and he was just kind of like hanging out. He pops up every once in a while. The guru is standing against the wall. Patrick walks into frame, and then Vivian or whoever calls from off screen, and he turns and he obscures the guru. But in the split second that it takes him to turn around, the guru disappears.
Yep.
And it is so quick that I don't even know if there'd be time for like a trap door to open up or for him to duck out of frame. It looks almost like a CGI effect where they just like, oh, he's going to turn. We'll just like erase him out digitally later. But this is 1974, so that's impossible. What am I missing here?
He was a ghost.
I'm not talking about the context of the movie, John.
No,
They
he
hired
really was a ghost.
They hired a ghost. It makes sense to me.
It makes sense to me now that John thinks that that Rebecca died in possible
In
ecstasy because he believes that ghosts worked on this movie.
You keep saying that, Ian, but wait on your second viewing.
The time will come, but she will not.
I'll be getting that text in at 2 a.m. Oh my God. My whole life has changed.
Oh, this can't be happening. Really?
Hey!
Oh, wait. It wasn't happening. Now it's a chandelier. Okay. Bryan Martinez of the Giallo Room. Nice.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey. Are you at work?
No, I'm actually, look.
Oh, the new pad. Nice.
I still have a lot of work to do, but I felt like just chiming in real quick.
Well, thank you. Babe, before you do, though, I want to make sure I get to these comments here. Big Swifty, again, in my opinion, this movie is made by the atmosphere and the cinematography. I will agree the script is like a bad 70s soap opera. There's just something about the atmosphere that makes this movie. And also the soundtrack by Carlos Savina raises it.
Those are the 2 points that I also pointed up in my review, Big Swifty. I thought that the cinematography, I think it's a great location, and I think they do a lot to kind of highlight it. I do kind of also agree with what Ian had to say, that there's a bit of a flatness to some of the scenes, almost kind of sucking the atmosphere out. And so I found that kind of an interesting back and forth, because there are times when, like the scene where she's running, I think it's Doris running, and like there's the sound is coming from those speakers, and you have to pull like the cork out. I don't actually know what that is or what it does, but I thought it was pretty interesting. But I think that scene's extraordinary. But then some of the other scenes are a little flat. So, but I love the music. I thought the music was great. Interesting online. People either love it or hate it. You know, like it's a score that either really goes over well or doesn't go over well at all.
Well, that's the thing, is I need to go back and really on next viewing pay attention to the score, because the only time it really stuck out to me was when, as I mentioned before, it felt like they were amping it up in order to create an artificial tension. The scene where they realize that they're locked in the theater, and then there's a montage of people going and like trying to get out of doors.
Right.
If you take the music out, it's just people going. But then you add the like, and that's not the score, but like the intense music. I'm like, it's just that you could add like the Benny Hill, slide whistle theme to it and be just a completely different effect, but the same visuals. But which I guess would not make it the same at all. Anyhow, Bryan,
that's I would say that point is made, but I think that point can be made about anything, especially in horror. I mean, a lot of times the score is what dictates what the atmosphere is, and so here, the fact that it may feel a little forced to you, that's essentially what it is. It called to mind because the visuals I don't think matched up with the intensity of the score. Okay.
But I will say, before I let this go and before we talk to Bryan, 10 Little Indians, another film. I have to mention this because we are talking about movies.
Yes, thank you.
Friday the 13th.
Right.
Yeah. So Bryan Martinez of the Giallo Room, welcome. Who's your friend there?
Oh,
not the drink, the dog.
It's Maximus.
Ooh,
my best friend. Since
Does he have a best friend named Gluteus?
It's actually a long story why his name's Maximus, but
all right. Well, we don't have to share that necessarily now, but it's nice
right.
to meet you, Maximus.
I was like, don't give
Please.
Bryan license to tell long stories.
Unless it involves Giallo.
So people trapped in the theater with demonic stuff. Are we talking about demons?
Yeah.
No, we're talking about giallos, Bryan. That's not a giallo.
Jolly.
We're not talking about any of them.
Jolly.
Well, technically, Bryan, you might actually be onto something because this guy is trapped in. Did you watch the movie?
Yeah, I've seen this like years ago. I haven't seen it recently for this. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's fine.
I planned to watch it this morning and then pop on tonight. And like moving into a house is like a big deal, apparently.
What? No.
But no, this film is super entertaining. From what I remember, much like you said, Ian, it is sort of a take on 10 Little Indians. Aaron
said that. I just made the Friday the 13th comparison.
Oh,
credit where credit's due.
But no, it's very much in that sort of Agatha Christie kind of vein. It's got some supernatural elements in it, which I really appreciate. And like, you know, it's kind of bonkers in a way because who would actually drive all the way out to like a theater, you know, just to like hang out and have a great time or whatever. But I do enjoy that aspect of it. I did see, as I was eating my dinner, I was watching you guys because I felt a little embarrassed to pop on or whatever. But stage fright.
But you got over that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys were like, "Why don't you just come on?" And I was like, "I guess, you know."
We didn't think you'd actually do it.
Yeah, I'll keep my mouth shut next time. Sorry.
Right. No. Say my name 3 times and I'll pop in. No, but Stage Fright would be an amazing film to you know discuss here in Accademia Giallo. It has a lot of you know, sort of the same elements in terms of a theater, a masked killer, and things like that. But yeah, like there's a lot of I don't know, like this one's a weird one, and I really wish that I could have stayed the entire episode to talk at length about it because there's so much going on in this goddamn movie. But yeah, I just wanted to pop in and say hi.
Well, hello. We love having you. But that sounded really disingenuous. We do love having you, Bryan.
Try it again, Ian.
I know.
We practiced this backstage. You had one line. Come on, man.
This is your intervention. No, but okay. So you've been watching us for a bit, and you said you could talk, you know, at length about it. But what I want to ask you is, since we do have you here for a few minutes, we are going to wrap up in just a bit. But is there anything? You know, we've talked about a bunch of themes and, you know, scenes and stuff and what worked and what didn't. Is there anything that comes to mind that we haven't talked about that you'd like to mention in particular?
I mean, no, like from what I've heard, you guys pretty much covered it, you know, all like I would say that it has a lot of actors that, you know, familiar face. I don't know if anybody's mentioned it, but a lot of familiar faces in this film that, sorry.
Jesus.
Sorry. I'm not.
Someone snuck up behind you with a rope.
That's why I didn't want to come on because I'm not properly set. But no, like it's got some familiar faces that you see like in other films. Like if you remember, did we cover New York Ripper?
Yes,
we did.
Yeah.
Wait, were you on for that? I can't remember.
Yes, he was.
Was he? Okay. I'm sorry. Look, no, here's the thing. I know sometimes we try and do a lot of these with you.
We
but
did
sometimes,
Solange.
I know we did, but my memory is Swiss cheese. So yeah, there you go. No offense, Bryan.
But no, the 2-finger or the 3 2-fingered whatever gentleman in New York Ripper. You know, he's here.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a lot of like notable actors that are
Janet Agron, who plays the one doing Juliet. She's from City of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we did that one too.
Yep.
so yeah, it's just, it's really cool to see. This one's from, I believe, what, 1973.
Or
Yeah. So, later on in the years, like you see some of these same actors doing their thing still. So it's kind of cool to see them in this kind of setting where, it's sort of like a gothic / Giallo, take on, like a Agatha Christie sort of Hitchcockian thing, so, but it does have a lot of weird elements in it. Some sleaze. I do appreciate the female relationship that was in it early on. Like that was actually my favorite relationship out of everybody, because everybody's sort of like, cheating on somebody, or it's just like a really twisted kind of group of individuals. Like those two seem like the most for lack of a better term, straight couple,
Well, yeah, and that's a really interesting point, because all the other dynamics in this film, there seems to be like they're involved in some kind of another motive.
Yeah,
Either they're conspiring, or one person hates somebody else who's in the group. And not that Rebecca and Doris don't dislike other people in the group, but they seem to be the two people who are drawn together by something resembling love.
Right, exactly.
And it's not just
everybody's got like all these ulterior motives, and you're just like, these two like are legit, so
which is another thing that makes the brutality of their death, which I think AC put it like those, they kind of get at the worst in this movie, in terms of the graphic nature of it, and also just the idea behind their death. There's something unsettling going on here thematically, but I think, hold on a second, we got one more comment from Big Swifty. I think he's talking about the guru, the guy with the Nehru jacket. Yes.
By the way, shout out to Big Swifty, because that is a name that I've seen in countless Giallo Room episodes. So
fantastic.
Cool.
Good to see you still around during the Giallo conversation, Big Swifty.
Well, that's great. I like, we're creating our own not cinematic universe, but YouTuberverse. Yeah, I dig it. All right, well, so I think, is there anything else before we kind of wrap up here that folks want to talk about in regards to the Killer Reserve 9 seats?
I would just say that had this been since this was his first and only entry in the horror Giallo genre, I think if you had someone with a little bit more experience, the film would have been a lot better.
Yeah,
because as you said, with the cinematography and the location, it was really good. I just don't think he knew how to use it.
Well, yeah, it may not have been, I don't know that it was his genre. I mean, It was there's a reason why we haven't heard a lot about that director in genre circles, is because it wasn't, and it may have been like he was a person toward the end of his career and needed a hit, and this is what he had that was offered him.
Yep.
Yeah, and you got to also understand, this is like sort of on the unfortunate side of the golden age of Giallo.
Right.
So everybody was making these films, so it's his input. But like, I don't remember who made the comment earlier, but it would have been interesting to see like an Argento or somebody like that take on this particular concept.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it'd be interesting to go back and look up Gieusseppe Bennati's other work, if he did come from Italian soap operas or maybe even romantic comedies. That might explain why this was not exactly knocked out of the park. But, in addition to maybe seeing someone with more experience handle the material, I think would have been cool to see what Bennati could have done if he had stuck it out, or maybe if this had come earlier in the Giallo craze, so he could make another couple of Giallo films. Because I think for a debut, it's a hell of a debut. It's just kind of uneven for my taste. I'm spoiled by all the other like fantastic Giallo that we've talked about on the show.
Well,
some of which I actually remember.
If I can actually, I'm looking at his IMDb page. There was a gap from 1962 to 1974 between his feature films, this being his last. The film he did prior to this was in 1962, but he'd been directing since the early 1950s, but pretty sporadically.
Yeah.
So yeah, he certainly had a curious career, if not a distinguished one.
Hell of a movie to go out with, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like here's your one last shot. Go. And that explains why he threw everything he had into it.
And I don't know if you guys, mine is like in storage somewhere, but I have the, I think it's the German Blu-ray of it, or but it's got that like amazing cover art that I love. And
is the crucified hand?
No, it's the
crucified hand attached to the whole like that tableau.
Oh yes, I forgot to mention that, and that's the other nail in the misogyny coffin.
Hey.
The lesbian couple are the ones like they're put on display.
Yep.
Now the thing that got me is that Rebecca, if I remember the geography right, she was killed in like the basement or like this dark enclosed room. But when we see her in that tableau, as you mentioned, she's on the stage. Yeah. Propped up naked with Doris kind of splayed out underneath her, but her hand is still crucified. So did he undo her hand and hammer it into a beam on the stage, or you just like bring the whole thing, body and all, up on that stage, and wouldn't someone have heard it?
I mean, I was more the fact that he only did like a half crucifixion. I thought that was intriguing. I'm like, just like, let me just keep you here, even though you're dead.
He'd already put enough holes in that body at that point.
Yep.
So with that,
on that sorry note,
yeah, I do want to thank everybody for hanging out and talking about the Killer Reserve 9 seats, including Big Swifty 500 in the comments. Also for recommending this movie. You may have missed that at the beginning, Brian. This is actually a requested film, so we're happy to accommodate.
Well, yeah, I remember that was a thing, right? That's why we chose this film, because it was a request.
Yes. But before we go, I want to say just another shout out. Along the bottom of the screen on this ticker, you've been seeing the URL for Albany Park Theater Project. That is what we are doing the Scare-a-Thons for 2021. All 5 weeks of October, we're doing these Friday night live streams at 7:30 p.m. Central to raise money and awareness for APTP. It's not just a good cause, it's fun to say. So please check out the links in the description below to Albany Park Theater Project, their information, website, and also their donation page on their website. You can also find all of my lovely companions' websites. You've got Bryan Martinez of the Giallo Room, John Kitley of Kitley's Krypt, AC the Man, Aaron Christensen of Horror 101. Sorry, Aaron Christensen of Horror 101 with Dr. AC. Just Google it. And me, Ian Simmons, are kicking the seat. And we're going to be back next week. We're going to be kind of a side trip into Hammerland. We're going to be talking about the Gorgon. Or is it the Gorgon? I can't remember. But it's a Christopher... No, not Christopher Lee. Why can't I... Peter Cushing.
Both.
Isn't it Peter Cushing? Are they both in it? Oh my gosh. I haven't seen the movie yet. So wait a second. So yes, that's I don't know. Where's the enthusiasm meter for the Gorgon next week?
It's Hammer.
Oh no, it's good. You'll have a good time with it.
Okay, good. Because you said lucky, I was like, I thought that meant that because I hadn't seen it, that means when I do see it, I will be unlucky.
No.
Okay.
You'll be even luckier.
Okay, good. And we should have actually a special guest there for that episode, Mark Krawczyk of the Spoiler Room podcast and Special Mark Productions.
Tell him I said hi.
I should. What you tell him? You said hi. Pop on here again, and yeah. But we'll be doing that. And one last comment from Big Swifty. F yeah, you guys are the best. Love you. Keep up the good work. We shall, and hopefully you'll be along for the ride. Thank you, sir. But with that, I'm gonna let you guys go. Have a wonderful Friday. Watch. Oh, Brian, yes.
Real quick. I hope the Albany Park Theater doesn't have as many murders as this film does.
Nice. Which is to say, we hope it has no murders. Yeah.
Also, we were having like a 31 days of Giallo on the Giallo Room Instagram page or whatever you want to call it. So please tune in if you want more Giallo for your October. So yeah.
Okay, I'll throw a link to that down below too. All right, thank you for plugging your stuff there, Bryan. And yeah,
and buy
everybody,
John's book, Discover the Horror.
yes, Discover the Horror. You gotta hold it up or something, Kitley.
Right?
Do you have it? You've got a card. That does it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you out there who are watching this live and or on the replay. We really appreciate it. And so does the Albany Park Theater Project. They might not be killing people, but they are killing it for sure.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Take care, everybody. See you next Friday live. And with that, we're going to end